coming in. A Medevac helicopter crashed onto a highway in U.S. in East Sacramento. Now, according to the Sacramento Fire Department, the aircraft went down on the eastbound side of Highway 50 near Howe Avenue. Authorities are investigating the crash and first responders are on the spot. Traffic has been completely shut down in the area as emergency crews are swarming the scene. Images on social media showcase a red helicopter operated by Reach Air Medical Services upside down in middle of the highway. Multiple people are reportedly injured as the aircraft crashed over a vehicle. Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarthy has stated that survivors are being treated at local hospitals. More news coming in. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that he would invoke the Insurrection Act if necessary to deal with civil unrest in cities such as Portland or Chicago. Now, speaking to reporters, he stressed that he would act if people were being killed or if local officials blocked federal actions. Listen in.
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe. And it's turning out, and we started with D.C. It's been so successful.
President Trump has ordered 300 members of the Illinois National Guard into service to protect immigration and customs enforcement personnel and other federal employees. The move has prompted a legal challenge from the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, which accused the Trump administration of unconstitutional invasion. Governor J.B. Pritzker claimed that President Trump's plan has all along been to cause chaos and consolidate power. Listen in.
I refuse to let Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, and Gregory Bovino continue on this march toward autocracy. Their plan all along has been to cause chaos, and then they can use that chaos to consolidate Donald Trump's power. They think they can fool us all into thinking that the way to get out of this crisis that they created is to give them free rein. Well, that plan will only work if we let it. The state of Illinois is going to use every lever at our disposal to resist this power grab and get Noem's thugs the hell out of Chicago. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid, and I won't back down.
Earlier, a federal judge in Oregon temporarily blocked the deployment of National Guard troops to police Portland, a decision that the White House has stated it will appeal. In fresh developments, Texas Governor Greg Abbott also announced that he is approving the deployment of the Texas National Guard to other states to help enforce federal immigration laws, aligning with President Trump's immigration crackdown. Take a look.
Now we have these local states that are refusing to enforce the law, and we have chaos. Know this, and that is the president has the constitutional responsibility to enforce the laws of the United States, and those laws include the immigration laws. And the president has the authority to call up National Guard to assist in enforcing those laws. And that's exactly what the president is doing and what Texas is doing. We're assisting the president in that cause. I want you to know just moments ago, our National Guard, our elite National Guard in the state of Texas, began their deployment as they were loading on planes in Texas, boarding for flights to parts of the country where they will be able to safeguard ICE officials and other federal officials as they try to enforce the laws of the United States.
White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt defended President Trump's actions, arguing that troops were needed to protect federal employees from quote-unquote violent riots. She's also confirmed that the White House Budget Office is working with federal agencies on plans to lay off workers amid the government shutdown. Take a look.
With all due respect to that judge, I think her opinion is untethered in reality and in the law. The president is using his authority as Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Code 12406, which clearly states that the president has the right to call up the National Guard in cases where he deems it's appropriate. And if you look at what has happened in Portland, Oregon, for more than 100 nights, I was talking to our law enforcement team about it this morning, for more than 100 days, night after night after night, the ICE facility has been really under siege by these anarchists outside. They have been disrespecting law enforcement. They've been inciting violence. We saw, again, a guillotine rolled out in front of this federal building. And so the president wants to ensure that our federal buildings and our assets are protected. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And ultimately, in the case in Los Angeles, that judge ruled in the Ninth Circuit, that panel of judges ruled that those troops could remain and that the president was well within his authority to do so. So we are appealing that decision. As you know, we expect a hearing on it pretty quickly, and we're very confident in the president's legal authority to do this, and we're very confident we will win on the merits of the law. And then, of course, the Office of Management and Budget is continuing to work with agencies on who, unfortunately, is going to have to be laid off if this shutdown continues.
Meanwhile, protests have erupted across several U.S. cities against immigration and customs enforcement raids, with residents now disrupting operations in New York, Washington and Chicago. In Rochester and New York, demonstrators forced ICE agents to leave without completing an arrest. Meanwhile, in Washington's neighborhoods, residents blocked detentions and secured the release of at least one man. Chicago, meanwhile, has seen some of the largest showdowns where protesters clashed with federal agents amid reports of heavy tactical presence and a shooting incident involving Border Patrol. Illinois and Chicago have, in the meantime, filed lawsuits to block President Donald Trump's move to federalize hundreds of National Guard troops to support the operations. In fact, let's take a look at what a few protesters have had to say.
Oregon doesn't need that here. We don't need more military. We're already being tear gassed. We're already being tear gassed by these guys that are local ICE agents or whatever. The Department of Homeland Security here is already tear gassing 2 blocks. So I don't think that extra armed forces where we have a military circus and show against peaceful demonstrators and protesters and honestly, all of these are just civilians. These are just civilians in American towns. Like, we're just out here as families. There's like skateboarders and teenagers and older people, and I'm glad there's no babies because they've been tear gassing.
I think of ICE is the President Trump way of cleaning up and, you know, giving the citizens, that the people that's here that want to be here, a chance to get in because they got so much connection, they throwing us away. You know, we take us forever just to get one thing, and they just get everything. That's what I feel, but some of them are nice because they live in our area.
So what I think that is terrible, I've been here like 5 months. I'm new in this city. I love the country, I love the city, I love the Chicago style, but I think that Trump is not a good decision because I've been learning the history of the country, and I know that the Chicago is like an immigrant city, born like that. So it's something contradictory to send or make propaganda about the immigrants are bad or they are destroying our country. So it's a little ridiculous.
Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Spencer Critchley. We've heard what some of the protesters have had to say. They've been out on the streets protesting against the raids that the ICE is doing. We've also seen some very disturbing visuals of these agents pepper spraying a lot of these protesters while they're just standing in front of them. Now, Donald Trump has stated that he's considering invoking the Insurrection Act, but earlier the Trump administration's point of view was that they're deploying the National Guard troops to simply deal with crime. Is what Trump is considering justified in this case, or is this an overreach?
No, absolutely not. This Governor Pritzker of Illinois is correct. This is an attempted authoritarian takeover of the United States by a would-be dictator. And he's following the pattern that dictators have followed over and over again. And that includes creating phony emergencies to justify emergency powers and deploying military force against the citizens of your own country, not for their safety, but to control them and to establish absolute authoritarian control over the country. President Trump has converted immigrations and customs enforcement into a private army. He's tripled its budget. It now has a budget larger than the militaries of many mid-sized nations around the world. He's redirecting FBI and other resources towards immigration enforcement, taking them away from vital functions such as counterterrorism. All of this is part of his attempted authoritarian takeover, and we must not take our eye off that ball. Something that people in other countries might not fully appreciate about American law enforcement, by the way, is when people are peacefully protesting in the United States, it's the job of the local police to keep those protesters safe, just as it's their job to keep everybody else's safe, because people peacefully protesting in the United States are exercising one of their most fundamental rights as Americans. So no matter how much you may disagree with what they're saying or whether you agree with them, that right must be protected. I've got quite a lot of experience working with law enforcement agencies, and I can tell you that the good ones understand that, and their first response to a protest is to make sure they're working out how to keep the protesters safe along with the rest of the community.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, sharing your perspective, and of course, sharing a little more about what exactly is going